During the run of the Sega Master System, it was largely accepted that Alex Kidd was Sega's Mario equivalent. While Alex failed to grab the Japanese or US audiences with his antics, the character and his games were well received in many PAL regions. Sonic would eventually replace him as Sega's worldwide representative, but that wasn't until the 16-bit era was well underway. There were a number of other platformers on the Master System, of course, but not many of them broke through to the mainstream, at least here in the US. Some years later, I would learn of a platformer that many PAL gamers raved about, a game so fun and so well made that I just had to try it out. In this episode, we will be taking a look at Psycho Fox, a Vic Tokai developed action platformer that was released in 1989. Was this as good as everyone said, or was it a poor excuse of a game that was nowhere near the quality of Nintendo's best? Let's find out. Our adventure begins with the evil Madfox, a priest of the Inari Temple, devising a plan to conquer the land. Madfox succeeds in creating creatures to terrorize the other animals and control the world. The other foxes of the Inari Temple come together to choose a champion, the young hero, Psycho Fox. Now it's your job to go in, defeat Madfox's evil minions, and rid the country of his nefarious reign. The core gameplay is a platformer not so different than the likes of Alex Kidd before it. Running, jumping, and punching make up the vast majority of what you'll be doing. You can also jump on top of enemies if you're so inclined, though that first hit is only a stun and you'll need a few more to secure the defeat. The major difference with the control in Psycho Fox is that it's heavily dependent on a physics system that takes weight and speed into consideration. You don't move very fast unless you build up speed. If you jump from a standstill, Psycho Fox doesn't get very far. If you build up a bit of momentum, however, you get a lot further. At its fastest, Psycho Fox can even skip across water. As you traverse the levels, you will come upon eggs that contain both helpful items or more enemies to contend with. Of the former, you can get extra lives, a straw man that destroys every enemy on the screen, magic medicine that grants you invincibility for a short time, and a money bag that gives you more chances at the bonus game. The two most important items you can get are the Psycho Stick and Bird Fly. The Psycho Stick allows Psycho Fox to change into other animals. The hippopotamus is slow and heavy, but has a powerful punch that can break blocks. The monkey can jump much higher than your fox form, and the tiger is the fastest runner and furthest jumper. Be aware that the Psycho Stick is a one-and-done item, so if you want to transform again, you'll need multiple sticks. Should you be lucky enough to happen upon a bird fly, pick it up, and you now have both a projectile and shield in one awesome power-up. You can throw bird fly quite a far distance and take out enemies before they get even close. Collect bird fly and you can continue to use him over and over as long as you don't take damage. That there is his second function. Typically, Psycho Fox is a one-hit wonder. Get nailed by an enemy and you lose a life. Birdfly gives you a shield of sorts and absorbs that damage. You lose him, but live to fight on. Here's the rub with most of the items, however. Outside of Birdfly, the stuff you pick up goes into an inventory that has to be accessed via the pause menu. It's there where you select the item and activate it. This adds a strategic element to their use, but with the pause button on the console itself, it's not exactly convenient. After you complete a stage, you gain access to a bonus level, a game of chance that can earn you extra items and extra lives. You use your money bags to place Psycho Fox on a path and watch him move automatically to the finish area. Each path changes the direction Psycho Fox moves, so you'll need to experiment to find the best way forward. On the third act of each zone, a boss will appear and introduce a gimmick in order to defeat him. For instance, in Zone 2, you will need to use bug spray to take down the giant RoboFly. The challenge of Psycho Fox is considerable, but thankfully, you have unlimited continues. Psycho Fox is a fantastically colorful game. It flexes the console's muscle in this regard and is not far off of some of the early 16-bit titles of the time. The foregrounds and sprites look great, and the bosses have a decent size and detail to them. There's also a fair bit of variety in the stages, 7 zones that are broken up into 3 sections each. Unfortunately, the small 2 megabit cartridge size does limit things here. There is a severe lack of variety in the enemy sprites. You'll be battling the same small group the entire way, and you even have to replay the boss battles. There is also a distinct lack of background detail on many of the stages. Most areas just repeat the same blue skies and clouds over and over again. Even when things do change, it does so with backdrops entirely absent of color and detail. Just plain old empty black space that desperately needed something happening. None of that ruins the presentation, but it certainly has an impact on the overall impression. I think this would have been fine had Psycho Fox released earlier. After all, many of the most popular 8-bit games years before traveled a similar route with limited resources. But the simple truth is that the Master System has visuals that can be jaw-droppingly impressive. Fire up something like Vigilante or Lucky Dime Caper to see what this console could do in terms of detail. Psycho Fox didn't need to be much more to be a knockout in the same class. A few trees here, a few mountains there. As it is, it's still impressive and holds up well. Psycho Fox does not support the FM sound unit, so it's PSG only for better or worse. Thankfully, this is some of the easiest PSG on the ears you'll find on this hardware. There's a great flow to the music, happy, upbeat, and even on the more sinister stages, it never gets grating or hard to stomach. I like it, and have a few samples for your pleasure. I'll not mince words here, I absolutely despised this game when I initially played it. I was not privy to it in its heyday, so by the time I fired it up, I was looking for something that moved and played similar to the stuff I was familiar with during the 16-bit mascot craze. Psycho Fox seemed like he had a lead weight tied to his ass, and that translated to a game that felt too heavy, too slow, and just too unresponsive. After a few stages, I just couldn't take any more, and decided I had had enough. And that was my story with Psycho Fox for years. I had no respect for its fans' love, and even argued that it was a poor game on more than one occasion. And you want to hear something funny? I had planned on this episode right here, the very one you are currently watching, to be one of those reviews where I cut into the game and absolutely lambaste it as a terrible experience. You know, where I say stuff like the developers should be ashamed of themselves for unleashing this heap of garbage on unsuspecting gamers. The first 15 minutes of my gameplay capture is nothing but me dying over and over thanks to its weighty mechanics. But something happened during the review I didn't expect. While playing, I began to adjust to the gameplay. The initially unwelcome physics begin to sort of settle into a place and start to make sense. The deeper I played, the more I discovered. The game has warp zones, secret stages, and once you learn the bonus game, it gives you plenty of lives to counter the challenge. To my utter and complete surprise, Psycho Fox was becoming something I enjoyed, and by the time I finished capturing my footage a few hours later, I had defeated it multiple times and even played through it afterwards just for the fun of it. Don't get me wrong, old Psycho Fox is far from perfect. You'll die in places you wouldn't in other games thanks to the way you need to build up momentum to get anywhere. I also was still down on the backgrounds that lacked detail, and the foregrounds and enemies being repeated far too often. The reuse of boss encounters was certainly unfortunate as well. But the sum of everything Psycho Fox does right is not a bad game in the slightest. There is a barrier here that keeps it from the pick up and play greatness of something like Sonic or Mario, but once you overcome that period of adjustment, Psycho Fox may well be one of the best platformers on the Master System. I don't say that lightly, my friends. With that comes the admission that I had been wrong. Psycho Fox is a winner. The details of Psycho Fox get more interesting the deeper you dig. Vic Tokai would go on to develop the Mega Drive title, Magical Hat no Butabi Turbo, which would come west as the heavily modified conversion of Decap Attack. Playing these back to back, you clearly see the design similarities in multiple areas. They both were part of a trio of Vic Tokai developed titles that started with the NES release, Kid Kool. Firing that up, you again see where those two games got their core mechanics from. The story doesn't end there. Tectoy would take Psycho Fox in 1995 and turn it into a new release specific to Brazil. Sapo Xule vs. the Swamp Invaders was a reskin that changed the number of the sprites and added a new story. Here you play as a frog whose home is invaded by a magical snake. This bad dude steals your girl on top of that, so you enlist the help of some friends to take him out. With the aid of your stinky boomerang tennis shoe, nothing can stand in your way. The lead character was a multimedia star, having appeared in comics, cartoons, and he even had his own toy line. Whatever version of this interests you the most, I highly recommend you fire up Psycho Fox and give it some time. It's an excellent platformer that deserves the praise many heap upon it. I'm not above admitting being wrong, and in this case, I am happy to admit that I was. Psycho Fox is a Master System must-play. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.